Looking for magic cards? At flipsidegaming.com you can now use the promo code LVD to get a 10% discount on orders over $10 while supporting the channel at the same time. Hello and welcome to another episode of Friendly Friday, a weekly series where we take a look at budget standard for modern decks, and this week we're taking a look at green-white Emeria in Modern, a deck built around Emeria, the Sky Ruin, a land that enters the battlefield tapped and reads, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 7 or more planes, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, so a very powerful effect that can take over the late game. So how do we take advantage of Emeria? We're playing it in this green-white shell full of creatures with all sorts of enter the battlefield abilities, where we get to draw some extra cards, ramp, or even protect our creatures. So let's take a look at the entire list, starting out with our 1-drops, where we have 4 copies of Path to Exile to interact with the opponent's creatures. And next up we get to our 2-drops, where we have 2 copies of Mortarpod, a 2-mana equipment with a living weapon, so comes into play attached to a 0/0 germ creature token, and the equipped creature gets +0/+1 and has the ability to sacrifice a creature to deal 1 damage to target creature or player. So this is a nice sacrifice outlet to make sure that our creatures keep going to the graveyard once we have Emeria online, where we can keep getting them back and get an incremental advantage that way thanks to our enters the battlefield abilities. And of course Mortarpod by itself can also be very valuable against 1 toughness creatures. Next up we have 2 copies of a Lone Missionary, a 2-mana 2/1 that when it enters the battlefield we get to gain 4 life, so a great way to buffer our life total against aggressive strategies. And we have 2 more copies in the sideboard. Then we have 2 copies of Selfless Spirit, a 2-mana 2/1 flyer that we can sacrifice at any point to make our creatures indestructible until end of turn, so also a nice one to sacrifice and then get back with Emeria without needing the help of Mortarpod. Then we have 4 copies of Wall of Omens, 2-mana 0/4 Wall with Defender, and when it enters the battlefield we get to draw a card, so keeps us alive until we get Emeria online and keeps the cards flowing. And then we also have 2 copies of Elvish Visionary, which is very similar, 2-mana 1/1 that draws a card when it enters the battlefield. Then we also have 4 copies of Sakura-Tribe Elder, 2-mana 1/1 that we can sacrifice at any point to search up a basic and put it into play tapped, so helps us ramp, get to those 7 planes a lot faster, and of course by sacrificing it, it ends up in our graveyard where we can get it back with Emeria or various other effects. Next up we get to our 3-drops, where we have 2 copies of Blade Splicer, a 3-mana 1/1 that when it enters the battlefield we get a 3/3 colorless Golem artifact creature token, and Blade Splicer says Golem creatures we control have first strike, so a great target to blink with our next creature, which is Flickerwisp, a 3-mana 3/1 with flying that when it enters the battlefield we get to exile another target permanent and then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step, so we can target our own creatures that have beneficial enter battlefield abilities like Blade Splicer, Wall of Omens and Elvish Visionary, and we can also target the opponent's stuff sometimes to maybe get something out of the way for a turn. Next up we have 2 copies of a Renegade Rallier, a 3-mana 3/2 with Revolt, so when the Rallier enters the battlefield, if a permanent we control left the battlefield this turn, we get to return target permanent card with convert mana cost 2 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield, so can return fetch lands or can return 2-mana creatures, lots of flexibility there, and also combines very nicely with Flickerwisp, since if we exile the Rallier with the Flickerwisp ability, we automatically satisfy the Revolt trigger. Then we have 2 copies of Restoration Angel, a 4-mana 3/4 with flash and flying, so we can play it at instant speed to ambush the opponent's creatures. We can also use it to save our own creatures, because when the angel enters the battlefield we get to flicker one of our creatures, so one of our creatures gets exiled and then returns to the battlefield immediately, so we also get to reuse enter the battlefield abilities, which goes very nicely with most of our creatures. Then we have 2 copies of Wrath of God as a nice reset button to clear the board, destroys all creatures and they can't be regenerated, and of course once we have Emeria online we can just get our creatures right back. And last but not least we have 3 copies of Sun Titan, a 6-mana 6/6 with Vigilance, and when he enters the battlefield or attacks we get to return target permanent card with convert mana cost 3 or less from our graveyard to the battlefield, so it does a very nice Emeria impression without needing Emeria, and once we do get Emeria online we can even get back Sun Titan from the graveyard, so that can start a nice value chain. Then taking a look at our mana base, of course we have the 4 copies of Emeria the Sky Ruin, and because we do need 7 planes for Emeria to work, most of our lands will be planes. we have 2 copies of Canopy Vista, which is a forest plains, enters the battlefield tapped unless we control 2 or more basics. Then we have 4 copies of Temple Garden, which also counts as a forest and a plains, and we can pay 2 life to play it untapped. 4 copies of Windswept Heath as our fetch land that can fetch up our basics or our shock lands, and in this case also Canopy Vista, since it also counts as a plains and a forest. And then a whole bunch of basic lands, 6 plains, and the 1 forest, which we don't want to naturally draw when we have Emeria, but sometimes you need it to play around a Blood Moon effect. And then 4 copies of Field of Ruin, which we can use to deal with the non-basic lands from the opponent, and when we sacrifice it we can search up a basic land ourselves, so we can make sure to grab a basic plains if we want to get Emeria online as quickly as possible, and in a pinch we can also get the basic forest if we need to. Now let's go over the sideboard, where we have 2 copies of Wheel of Sun and Moon, which is our graveyard hate of choice, since it doesn't affect our own graveyard while still messing with the opponent's graveyard, so we can still do our Emeria shenanigans and get things back with Sun Titan, as opposed to Rest in Peace that exiles all graveyards. We have the 2 additional copies of Lone Missionary against aggressive decks. Then we have 2 copies of Qasali Pridemage as a creature that can destroy artifacts or enchantments, so goes very well with Emeria, and can even get it back with Renegade Rallier or Sun Titan. And very similar, we also have 1 copy of Seal of Primordium, which is 1 mana cheaper to destroy artifacts or enchantments. Cannot get it back with Emeria, but we can still get it back with Sun Titan or Renegade Rallier, and it also curves nicely into Renegade Rallier since we can play it on 2 and then sacrifice it and play Renegade Rallier in the same turn on turn 3. Then we have some more removal spells, 2 copies of Celestial Purge to exile a black or red permanent, and 2 copies of Blessed Alliance, which can be used to make the opponent sacrifice an attacking creature, so great against a deck like Bogles that goes all in on 1 creature, and we can also use it to gain some life back in the aggressive matchups. Then we also have 1 copy of Reclamation Sage as another artifact and enchantment removal spell, and combines very nicely with our flicker effects like Flickerwisp and Restoration Angel. Then we also have 1 copy of Eidolon of Rhetoric against the Storm decks, a Ramunap Excavator to replay our lands from the graveyard, so great when we need to get back Field of Ruin, and finally an additional sweeper in the form of Day of Judgment, and we're playing this over the 3rd Wrath of God because of Meddling Mage from the Humans deck. So that's the deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Alright, we're on the play, and this hand seems pretty good, so we'll definitely keep, and we'll probably lead with a tapped Temple Garden here. Probably won't have to use a path right away, and if we are up against a burn deck, then playing this tapped is still fine. Misty Rainforest, getting Breeding Pool, so we might see a Noble Hierarch. Nope, Search for Tomorrow, so we might be up against a 4-color Bring to Light version of Scapeshift. So that doesn't bode well for us, since we don't really interact very well with spells on the stack like Bring to Light or Scapeshift. Think we just run out the Selfless Spirit to try and apply pressure, and then next turn we can play Blade Splicer and then flicker the Blade Splicer with Flickerwisp. If we were up against a more controlling opponent, we might play the Wall of Omens to get more value and then play the Flickerwisp on 3, but if we're trying to race an opponent that's trying to Scapeshift us, then I think playing the Spirit here is better. Opponent with Search for Ascanta. So let's get in for 2. Path to Exile might not be very good, but maybe we end up pathing our own Wall of Omens to ramp. Think basic plains is fine here. Let's play the Blade Splicer. Say go. And then next turn Flickerwisp. And we have Selfless Spirit to protect the Blade Splicer from any potential removal spell. Search for Tomorrow resolves. Our opponent playing Search Tribal. Now Search for Ascanta trigger resolves. And our opponent puts Temple Garden in the graveyard. Misty Rainforest, so we still haven't seen any red mana from the opponent, so they might not be Bring to Lighting us after all. So let's attack first, and then play Flickerwisp second main. Opponent could be contemplating whether or not to use a Cryptic command. They are fetching, gets a forest, and yep, there's Cryptic, tap, and draw a card. Alright, so we do get to resolve the Flickerwisp at least. Flicker Blade Splicer, and say go. Search for Ascanta pretty close to transforming here, puts Cinderglade in the graveyard, so that confirms our suspicion of Bring to Light Scapeshift. So next turn the Search could already transform. There's a Steam Vents untapped, so we might see another Cryptic command here, maybe also Lightning Bolt. I think we just move to combat. Bolt on the Flickerwisp. That's fine, not gonna sacrifice a Spirit, our opponent might be running some main deck sweeper effects. Attack with everyone. Pretty sizable attack. Opponent falls to 3. And then second main, think it's okay to run out another Flickerwisp here. The other option would be Wall or Sakura-Tribe Elder. Doesn't seem great. So let's Flickerwisp again. Target Blade Splicer. And alright, our opponent scoops it up. So up against what looks like a Bring to Light Scapeshift deck. Eidolon of Rhetoric works out pretty well against Bring to Light since the opponent needs to cast 2 spells. So that kind of works there. I think Pridemage is probably better than Path to Exile, since their opponent doesn't have very many targets, and then I guess the Excavator is also fine, as it can buy back a Field of Ruin. I guess Wrath of God also does very little, so we would rather want Lone Missionary just to beat down with. Pretty much bring in all the creatures we have. This hand's a bit on the slow side, but I don't think we can mulligan a hand that has creatures and cards that draw more cards. Alright, let's lead with a tapped Temple Garden once again. The Vista will come into play untapped once we play our 2 basics. So turn 2 we have to decide whether or not to run out the Pridemage to apply more pressure or the Elvish Visionary to draw a card. Opponent plays a Farseek on 2, gets a Breeding Pool, and there's Excavator in case we draw a Field of Ruin. So I think we just go with the Pridemage. Our opponent probably has Lightning Bolt, but that's fine. We need to start dealing some damage. And there's Sakura-Tribe Elder, so that can block the Pridemage for a turn, and Flickerwisp, so let's attack. Opponent does block, and probably gets an island here, is my guess. So here we can play Flickerwisp, which adds the most power to the board, or we can try to get more value and play an Elvish Visionary first. I think we need to play the Visionary first here, since we do need to draw into something relevant, since the cards in hand aren't gonna get it done. And then I guess we can play a tapped Vista. Say go. Opponent passes with 4 mana up, representing Cryptic Command, so let's move to combat. Attack for 3. And here we don't want to play out our most valuable card, which I think is Flickerwisp. So instead, I think I'm gonna lead with Lone Missionary. Opponent lets it resolve, and I think I'll play the Wall of Omens over the Spirit, since it's pretty clear our opponent has a Cryptic Command just from the pause. And alright, there's a Cryptic, counter draw. So hoping to dodge an Anger of the Gods. There it is. At least we still have our flyers. And another Mortarpod. Doesn't do a ton here, so I guess we do go Spirit plus Mortarpod. Gets remanded. Then we'll just replay the Spirit. Search for Tomorrow, Hardcast. Gets a Plains. And Windswept Heath means we can replay that with the Excavator for whatever that's worth. Let's attack first. Gets Lightning Bolted. And then second main, I guess we can go Mortarpod. Sacrifice it on the opponent. And then fetch a Plains to Flickerwisp the Mortarpod. That way we get an additional Germ token. Flickerwisp gets bolted, but we still get the Mortarpod back. And if this is just a Bring to Light, we should be dead. Although I guess we're at 23, so we do need to take more than 18 damage. There's Bring to Light for 4. Gets Hunting Wilds, so just a ramp spell here. So perhaps they have a second Bring to Light in hand, or the Scapeshift. So they get 2 more lands. And Elvish Visionary. Let's play that in the hopes of finding something relevant. Just the Plains, so let's play Excavator. Replay Windswept Heath. Say go. And I imagine we're dead. And there's the second Bring to Light, and this time the opponent has enough lands in play that they should be able to kill us with Scapeshift. So this is definitely a matchup that suffers from not having Ruined Halo in the sideboard, which, oh, never mind, opponent goes for Supreme Verdict. Interesting. Well, I guess we sacrifice the Germ. I guess they might still have the Scapeshift in hand. who knows? So yeah, there's Escape Shift after all. Not sure why they did it this way. So yeah, I think this matchup suffers from not having the Runed Halos in the sideboard, which are a bit pricey for sideboard cards, so I didn't include them for budget reasons. But they could just name Valakut the Molten Pinnacle, and then this Escape Shift would not be able to deal us any damage. It could still take out our creatures, but if it doesn't go to the player, then you don't die to it, which is the important part. Although of course our opponent playing blue also has access to Cryptic Command to bounce the Runed Halo. So lots of Valakut triggers go on the stack. Opponent with 2 Valakuts and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mountains. So 7 times 6 damage, and we're dead. Alright, on to sideboarding. Don't think we want to change anything. As we saw there, we had a few mopey cards. Mortarpod is not really where we want to be in the matchup. Wall of Omens is a bit slow, but yeah, we'll try again. Alright, no green mana, but double Field of Ruin can mess up the opponent's mana a little bit. Think we keep. And we finally drew Emeria, so we might get to get some creatures back if the game goes long enough. Although Valakut tends to trump Emeria. So the plan here is turn 2 Selfless Spirit, turn 3 activate Field of Ruin. Although Windswept Heath gives us some more options. Think I still like turn 2 Selfless Spirit, and then turn 3 perhaps we use the Pridemage instead. Opponent has a Tribe Elder, which is a reason to play the flyer first. And Blade Splicer, alright, now we're talking. So we could attack for 2, play Blade Splicer, or we could play the Pridemage attack for 3 with Exalted. It would be a lot more mana efficient to play the Blade Splicer, but we don't have double green, so we don't get to play our 2 2-drops on 4 anyways. I kind of like fetching for green. Of course, getting a Temple Garden here, and playing the Pridemage to get in for more damage. And then next turn we might just Field of Ruin, plus maybe play the Sakura-Tribe Elder. Opponent sacks the Elder anyways, so now Blade Splicer looks a lot better. Let's attack for 3, and say go. Opponent with Hunting Wilds, ramps for 2. Alright. So here we have a few options. We could Field of Ruin to try and mess up the opponent's mana a little bit. Although we can't take them off of Cryptic Command, we can try to take the red source, force them to get a mountain, or we can blow up the Temple Garden, although we know they have a basic plains in the deck. So I think we're probably better off just playing the Blade Splicer here, since we have Selfless Spirit to protect from Anger of the Gods, and then just get in for 4. Opponent might also just kill us next turn, very much possible. If they go land, bring to light for Scape Shift, or just Scape Shift. Anger of the Gods will respond with Selfless Spirit. They just have a Scape Shift, so that's probably going to kill us here since we took some damage from our fetch and our Temple Garden. So our opponent will be able to deal 18 damage to us, and there's no way we can interact here. So we end up falling short against what is probably one of our worst matchups, if I'm being honest. Could be fixed with some Ruined Halos in the sideboard if you're willing to spend a little more, but for the budget version we'll just have to move on to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, and this hand seems decent. We'll keep, and probably just gonna lead with a tapped Emeria here, and leave the option of untapped Temple Garden. Opponent cycles Street Wraith, so it could be up against a Hollow One deck or Death Shadow. Wooded Foothills, so more likely to be the Hollow One deck. Could also be a Living End technically. I'm just gonna play a tapped Temple Garden and say go. Opponent did not fetch with their Foothills, so they might be looking for more lands perhaps. Gets a Stomping Ground and basic Mountain. And Manamorphose, alright, so now I'm confused. I guess it could be the Junt Death Shadow deck with Traverse, or just a Brew. Burning Tree Emissary, alright, we're in the Brew camp now. Emissary into Emissary, and Karizav Skyship Raider. Alright, so a few options here. We can path the Karizav, or we can keep the path since we're planning to Wrath of God anyways, but then we do end up taking 3 more damage. Think we untap for now, see if we draw land or not. We don't. So now I think we just Flickerwisp and target one of our lands, namely the basic plains. So we still have access to Path to Exile, but what I'm actually going to do is block with the Flickerwisp and path our own Flickerwisp so we can be guaranteed to cast Wrath of God next turn. Since if we just path one of the opponent's creatures and miss on a land drop, we could still fall behind. We could have considered pathing in our own turn to play around a Lightning Bolt on Flickerwisp in response to Path to Exile on Flickerwisp, but it's pretty unlikely their opponent does that, since they're more likely to want to bolt our face. So if our opponent attacks, I will just block one of the 2-powered creatures. And then path our own Flickerwisp. Is this an Atarkos command? Looks like it, since the opponent is taking some time to select the modes. Yep, there it is. So deal 3 to me, and then +1/+1 to each creature. That's fine. And now I'll path the Flickerwisp, get another plains, and then take a bunch. So we're down to 9, but now we do get to wipe the board. We found a fetch land anyways, so perhaps would have gotten there. Play the Windswept Heath. And I think we just fetch a Temple Garden end of turn. So here it can come into play tapped, since we don't need the mana. So if we do draw a land, we're less likely to draw a Temple Garden that deals 2 to us. We could Restoration Angel, but I think we want to dig for lands, so let's play the Visionary. And if we find a land, we can still Restoration Angel the Visionary. Alright, perfect. So let's say go. And next turn we can Sun Titan, start getting back fetch lands, and then Emeria becomes online pretty quickly. Opponent fetches up a Dried Arbor with her fetch land. That's interesting. And a Sacred Foundry. Another fetch land, so the opponent might be flooding a bit. No attacks. End of turn we will just Restoration Angel the Visionary, and now I guess we can get a Canopy Vista, since we don't want to pay the life. Target the Visionary, and if the Visionary gets killed in response, that's fine. Draw a card, find a plains, excellent. And another Canopy Vista. So let's attack. Think I'm okay attacking with both, since we'll still have the Sun Titan on defense. So run out Sun Titan, get back Windswept Heath, run out Canopy Vista, say go. So now we have the 7 plains if we fetch with the Windswept, although currently nothing to get back. Opponent cycles Street Wraith, 4 cards in hand, so they could burn us out here. So we might want to consider not fetching with the Windswept Heath, since that puts us to 6, which is 2 Lightning Bolts. And currently there's nothing to get back with Emeria, so no reason to go for it, since we still have the basic plains in hand. Mog War Marshal is gonna gum up the ground, but still a 2-turn clock with the Restoration Angel. And Sun Titan has Vigilance, so let's untap. So let's just attack with Sun Titan and Restoration Angel, play Blade Splicer. And I'm gonna keep the Visionary on defense just to be sure, since the opponent could go wide here. Opponent could have something like a Reckless Bushwhacker, deal a lot of damage out of nowhere. So we want to have as many blockers as possible. Opponent chumps the Sun Titan. And yeah, I think playing Blade Splicer is better than playing Wrath of God, even though we do have Emeria online, so we could get our stuff back, but we want to be protected against haste creatures from the opponent. Opponent cycles Street Wraith down to 1. Do they find what they need? Another fetch land. And they kill themselves. Alright, so up against an all-out zoo deck with presumably Bushwhackers. So probably want our Celestial Purges. Blessed Alliance, while not great against go-wide decks, still gains us some life. Day of Judgment and Lone Missionary. So lots of cards to bring in. What do we take out? Mortarpod seems a bit slow. Visionary could probably go. And then some of the top-end cards, Sun Titan. Flickerwisp is probably better than Renegade Rallier, so we have a way to close out the game in the air. So this seems okay. Yep, let's submit. And this hand seems like a keep. We have Path for some early interaction, then Blade Splicer plus Flicker effects. Opponent could just kill us on turn 2 or 3, but so be it. Untapped Stomping Ground. And a Wild Nacatl. So that's gonna eat a Path to Exile. Opponent gets Sacred Foundry. And Hidden Herbalist. Makes double green. So if they also have Burning Tree Emissary, they can filter the double green into red and green. And they're gonna use one of the green for Wild Nacatl. And a second Wild Nacatl, wow. Alright, it's quite the army. Let's Path to Exile. Opponent gets a mountain. And another plains, means at least we get to play Selfless Spirit here to block the Herbalist. Or we could keep the Selfless Spirit around to protect the Blade Splicer, which is also reasonable. But I don't really want to take 8 and hope they don't have a Darkus command to save the Herbalist. Burning Tree Emissary. Emissary into Emissary. Alright, and the Reckless Bushwhackers, their opponent with the... I think we can call this a perfect draw pretty much. So we can block 4 powered creatures, still take 15. So the best we can do here, I guess, is block a Burning Tree Emissary, take 11 plus 5, 16. But then Blade Splicer still doesn't really get us there. But I guess we'll try. Block a Burning Tree. Down to 4 on turn 3. Could have been dead here if we didn't have the path. Untap, Canopy Vista saves us 1 life. And let's Blade Splicer. And we have 2 blockers, our opponent still has 6 power, so we're dead. Alright. So on to sideboarding. Do we want to reconsider? Think I like all our cards. I guess we should have considered Eidolon. On the draw it was probably too slow, but on the play it seems worth it. Can prevent those busted starts where the opponent chains a bunch of burning trees. So what do we take out for that? I guess Celestial Purge isn't even that great, since most of the opponent's creatures aren't even red. So this seems okay. Definitely want to be on the play. And this hand, triple Lone Missionary. I guess that's a keep. And Wrath of God to top it off. Opponent just with a turn 1 Dried Arbor, so not an ideal start for the opponent. We're just gonna play the Field of Ruin, I think. Play Missionary. We could path the Dried Arbor on upkeep to prevent the opponent playing anything next turn, but I would rather keep the path to deal with the creature that we can't trade with the Lone Missionary. And this Wrath of God is gonna be great, since we'll also get the Dried Arbor. There's a Windswept Heath. Get Stomping Ground, untapped. Is this Burning Tree Emissary turn? Nope, Manamorphose first. So there's certainly some amount of variance in the opponent's deck if they're playing Manamorphose and Street Wraith, just to reduce the size of their deck. And Mog War Marshal go. Alright, that's beatable. We could play Missionary, play Untapped Temple Garden so we also can path, and maybe even path our own Missionary to ensure Wrath of God next turn. Seems okay here. And not interested in attacking with the Lone Missionary. So we are telegraphing Path to Exile, but we're not really saying that we might have a Wrath of God as we just played another creature. So our opponent might just go all in, which would be pretty devastating for them if we can Wrath next turn. Opponent pays the Echo cost on War Marshal, so they're playing it slow. Windswept Heath. And an attack for 1, which we will take. We could actually go on the offensive, path the War Marshal, get in for 4, play another Lone Missionary, but that kind of goes against our Wrath of God plan. So I think we want to be patient. And Flickerwisp is a nice one. So here we could attack with the Missionaries, opponent probably blocks with the War Marshal, and then they get a 1-1, we get in for 2, we Flickerwisp a Missionary, hope they don't bolt it. Yeah, sure. So by playing the Flickerwisp, we're not really counting too much on this Wrath of God, we're just counting on all the life gain from the Missionaries. Opponent just takes it. Alright, let's Flickerwisp the Missionary and say go. So we're up to 29. Don't think we can die here. And now we have a flyer that can also start dealing some damage. Opponent already at 13. Fetches down to 12 at least. Make that 10. Path to Exile on the Flickerwisp, that's great. We actually don't mind, since now we have 4 lands for Wrath of God, although that does allow the opponent to play it slow. They get in for 1 with the Goblin. I think we'll take it, and then plan to attack, and if they block with the War Marshal, then we might pull the trigger on Wrath of God. Another land. Yeah, let's get in there. Opponent blocks. Takes 2. Down to 8. So Wrathing here essentially gets rid of 2 goblins and a Dried Arbor. It's probably good enough here. Still have a Path and Blessed Alliance. They could have a Boros Charm to make their guys indestructible, but then they probably have to fetch and shock a bunch. Right, just a tapped Sacred Foundry, and the Wrath resolves. Play the Windswept Heath, keep a Path. Opponent's at 7. We do need to draw some action, since right now we only have the Lone Missionary that can deal damage, but we're also not dying anytime soon. And we still have Emeria in play, along with essentially 4 planes, over halfway there. Opponent goes for Manamorphose. And Wildnacatl. That's fine. Goblin Guide. Sure. Simian Spirit Guide exiled. For a Reckless Bushwhacker. Alright, so our opponent's going all in here. So let's let them attack. And then, in response to the guide trigger, since we don't really need to draw more lands, I'm gonna fetch first, which is what you want to do if you don't want to draw lands. And we'll path, I guess, the Wildnacatl. Opponent gets a land. And then we still get that guide trigger. Let's see what's on top. Sun Titan, not bad. So we take 5 here, down to 22. And here we can Field of Ruin plus Lone Missionary, I suppose. Get a Plains, play Missionary, go back up to 26, and still have a Blessed Alliance. So here we might actually block the Reckless Bushwhacker if our opponent attacks to play around the Tarkus command, giving their team +1/+1. Our opponent also out of basic lands, so Field of Ruin a one-sided wasteland. Mogwar Marshal, sure. Does make our Blessed Alliance a bit worse. And no attacks. Alright, another Lone Missionary, sure. That's number 4. And here with Blessed Alliance we might end up using the End of Combat step, which is rarely used. So we can make some trades and then still use the Blessed Alliance to make the opponent sacrifice an attacking creature. So no attacks on our part, we'll just say go. Opponent does not pay for Echo, which I guess is a good thing given our Blessed Alliance. Another Simian Spirit Guide exiled. For a Karizev Skyship Raider. Into another Reckless Bushwhacker. Alright, so we can expect another all-out attack. So Blessed Alliance not looking great here, although I guess we can use it in response to Karizev's trigger. Or we can save it to gain 4 next turn, which is probably better. So we'll just let these attacks happen, I think. So Goblin Guide reveals. Field of Ruin, perfect. So next turn we'll have Sun Titan. And I will just go to blocks. And block the 2 Bushwhackers. And then take a bunch of damage. Next turn play Sun Titan, get back Lone Missionary. Flickerwisp got exiled, so we couldn't Flickerwisp to flicker Sun Titan and then get back Lone Missionary. And our opponent's gonna scoop things up. So apparently 4 Lone Missionaries pretty good against the Bushwhacker Zoo deck. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. Pretty land-light hand, but we do have Wall of Omens for the redraw. And Selfless Spirit, which we can also play, so probably a keep. Forest, not ideal since we don't really want those early on. Alright, Windswept Heath means we can fetch for Temple Garden up against Hallowed Fountain, so it could be a blue-white control deck of some variety. We'll fetch for Temple Garden and play a Wall of Omens. Resolves. Opponent gets a Watery Grave, so up against an Esper deck, and there's Emeria. So Esper I think is better news for us, since that means that Emeria is less likely to get Spreading Seized or Field of Ruined, and then it can take over in the late game. Just a tapped Hallowed Fountain from the opponent. Sakura-Tribe Elder is a nice one. Let's play that here. Plus Emeria. And we don't really need the land from the Tribe Elder right away, so we can keep it in play for a couple turns, maybe deal some damage. And there's Ashiok Nightmare Weaver, kind of an issue. So glad we have the Tribe Elder to get in there. It's gonna mill us for 3 essentially, and gets a Lone Missionary. Let's keep the Elder around and attack Ashiok for 1 after playing the Forest. And here we have a few options. We can play 2 of our 2-drops. We can play Flickerwisp, Flicker the Wall, or we can keep up Restoration Angel. We can also Restoration Angel the Wall right now to play around counter spells, which is also reasonable, although at that point we might as well Flickerwisp instead of Restoration Angel, since we're not taking advantage of the instant speed. I can buy that. And if they pass to exile the Wall of Omens in response, that's fine as well. Let's say go, draw a card, and the Plains is nice. Alright, so we've got some pressure. If our opponent has a sweeper effect, we sacrifice the Tribe Elder, and then we still have the Restoration Angel to instant speed, get on the board to attack Ashiok. We could also path our own Wall of Omens, which I don't hate, just to ramp, since the path is not doing anything anyways. Get a Plains, keep the Tribe Elder around, find a Field of Ruin, so let's move to combat, try to attack Ashiok for 4. That works. And I think we just Field of Ruin, say go. Don't really want to overextend into a sweeper. Guess we could play as a Selfless Spirit, which we can sacrifice in response. But here we can also just Field of Ruin plus Restoration Angel, which is pretty efficient use of our mana. Ashiok pluses. Lots of cards being exiled here. End of turn. Field of Ruin the Watery Grave. We could also Restoration Angel the Flickerwisp to then Flickerwisp the Ashiok to get rid of it and reset it essentially. I guess we should have used Field of Ruin in the opponent's second main phase so they couldn't float blue mana here. Think I'm still in favor of running out the Resto Angel. And if our opponent tries to counter this, we can untap and Sun Titan, although there's nothing too spectacular to get back. Opponents with the counter and bounce. Alright, so we get to untap, attack Ashiok for 1, or we can reset it with Flickerwisp, and then still add a Selfless Spirit. I think we lead with Flickerwisp to see if it resolves. Target Ashiok. Attack our opponent for 1. And then play Selfless Spirit. And then Lone Missionary. 5 Plains in play. We can make that 6 with the Tribe Elder. So now there's no creatures exiled by Ashiok any longer. Search for Ascanta, sure. Ashiok pluses. Don't think we need to sacrifice the Tribe Elder yet. Renegade Rallier is a nice one. So let's go to combat, see if our opponent maybe has a Cryptic Command to tap our team. They do. So tap draw. Second main we could sack the Tribe Elder, play a Rallier, get back Tribe Elder. Or we can simply play Sun Titan, get back Windswept Heath, which sets up Emeria for next turn. Or we can even go for Field of Ruin. Yeah, I guess we go for Field of Ruin. Our life total doesn't really matter this game. And then we can play the Temple Garden untapped. Say go. So now I have 4, 5, 6 Plains, 7 with Field of Ruin, so we don't even have to sacrifice the Tribe Elder. That way we can keep the Tribe Elder around as a Revolt enabler for the Renegade Rallier. Collective Brutality goes to the graveyard. Ashiok keeps plussing. And let's use Field of Ruin on the Godless Shrine. Opponent's gonna think twice in response. Let's get our last Plains. And then we have 7, so we can untap. Emeria targets Restoration Angel, which targets, I think, Flickerwisp. And I think we do get rid of the Flickerwisp. and then exile Ashiok once again to reset it, and then we can just attack our opponents. Draw Wall of Omens for a turn, so let's attack. Opponent with another Cryptic command. Tap our team, draw a card. We'll lead with Wall of Omens. Visionary. Don't have any more basics to get with the Tribe Elder, although we could get back Field of Ruin with the Renegade Rallier, but then again no basics to get. So I think we just Visionary for now. And Resto Angel is perfect, so we could Resto Angel the Flickerwisp on our own end step to get rid of the Ascanta, or we can keep the Resto Angel for instant speed interactions. I think we keep the Resto Angel at instant speed and see what our opponent does, since they kind of need to answer the board anyways. And then we have Renegade Rallier to get back Field of Ruin as well as Sun Titan. Jace the Mind Sculptor, sure. Brainstorms. Ashiok pluses. Gets a Tribe Elder. Don't think our opponent has many fetchable lands left with their Flooded Strand. Maybe just a plane, so I think the last Flooded Strand probably doesn't get anything. The Tension Sphere, alright, that's fine. We can Restoration Angel if they target Sun Titan. And that should do it. Alright, on to sideboarding against Esper Control. Don't have a ton of sideboard cards, we're mostly relying on Emeria to get us to the late game. Excavator's pretty decent, better than Wrath of God. Seal of Primordium seems okay, same with the two Pridemages. And we can take out Path to Exile. Mortarpod also isn't great, but at least does something. And I guess we could add a Wheel of Sun and Moon or two. Maybe Reclamation Sage over Mortarpod. Don't know if Mortarpod is better than Lone Missionary here. Maybe we would rather have the Lone Missionary just as a 2-mana 2/1. Although I guess Celestial Purge deals with Ashiok, so maybe want a Celestial Purge instead of one of these Wheels of Sun and Moon. Alright, let's try this. This hand seems okay. Nothing spectacular, but it's not like we have any super powerful cards in the matchup besides Emeria. Opponent mulligans a bunch and leads with Celestial Colonnade. Alright, let's play a tap Temple Garden. Next turn we have to decide which 2-drop to deploy. Opponent has the turn to search for Ascanta, plenty of answers after sideboard. And there's an Emeria. Kind of an interesting spot. I think we just want to accelerate our mana with the Tribe Elder, although we kind of wanted to keep this for the Renegade Rallier, but we have Emeria as our third land, which enters the battlefield tapped, but probably still okay to play the Tribe Elder here. And I think I take 2 to keep as many basics in the deck as possible for opposing Path to Exiles and our own Field of Ruins. Although with the Colonnades, our life total might be in danger this game as opposed to last game. So I'm just going to go with a second Temple Garden here. The other option I think would be Selfless Spirit, just to have a 2/1 flyer out there that can deal some damage. Opponent keeps the card with Ascanta and plays a fetch land, so end of turn I think we do sacrifice the Tribe Elder and get a Plains on tap. Pridemage is pretty good. Can blow up the Ascanta. I think I'm fine with running out a Pridemage here since we have the Renegade Rallier to get it back potentially. Resolves, play Emeria. And now the question is, do we sacrifice a Pridemage right away? I think we do. Don't want to give our opponent any extra scries. Opponent takes 2. Ascanta down. And why do they need 3 mana here? Esper Charm, draw 2 cards. Alright, that's fine. The other modes being discard 2 cards or destroy an enchantment. So they do have answers to some of our enchantments we brought in. Alright, let's lead with Visionary. Draw a card. And I think play the wall since we want to hit land drops here. Alright, so 2 Selfless Spirits. Nice insurance against Supreme Verdict. Land number 4, is this a Jace? It sure is. But next turn we can deploy a few creatures to pressure the Jace. Opponent targeted us with the +2 from Jace and kept the card on top. It's another Pridemage, so we can play the Pridemage, hit Jace for 2 with the Visionary, and then play a Selfless Spirit. That seems okay. Say go. So we're protected against a sweeper effect. Opponent bounces the Selfless Spirit. So we might see a Supreme Verdict here, so we could sacrifice a Spirit in response, which I kind of like here, since then we get to kill the Jace and we still have a second Spirit. So yeah, I'm gonna sacrifice a Spirit here. Opponent's not gonna play the Supreme Verdict, so they will still have it in hand, but at least we will get to take out the Jace. Right, Fatal Push instead. So Jace will live to tell the tale, but Field of Ruin can take care of a Colonnade. So let's attack Jace for 1. And we know about the potential Supreme Verdict in hand, so I'm gonna lead with Selfless Spirit since we can pay for Mana Leak. Second Selfless Spirit. It's gonna get Logic Knotted instead of Mana Leaked, so that'll work. So unfortunately we can't Renegade Rallier, since no permanent left the battlefield this turn. Otherwise we could have gone back to Selfless Spirit. So instead I guess we Flickerwisp and then force the Supreme Verdict anyways, but get a little bit of value. Alright, and if they do Verdict we can untap and Sun Titan, which seems pretty good as well. Opponent brainstorms, has a fetch land to shuffle, and they're shuffling right now. And there's Snapcaster Mage, perhaps on Esper Charm. Nope, on Fatal Push. And I guess they do have Revolt, so they can take out the Flickerwisp. But the opponent is mostly tapped out, so Sun Titan might resolve. And Rest in Peace, ooh, I see. Alright, that's annoying. So no value to be gained with Sun Titan. Still have 2 ways to get rid of the Rest in Peace here. So opponent's empty-handed. They don't know their top card. Let's attack Jace with Elvish Visionary. Opponent accepts. And then I think we just jam Sun Titan, force the opponent to minus Jace a bunch on the Sun Titan. Or we can go Wall plus Renegade Rallier. I think we go with Sun Titan. Jace brainstorms, looking for help. Plays a fetch land, so they might have an answer for Sun Titan in hand. I think we want a Wall of Omens first, in case we draw into Restoration Angel. Go to combat. Tag Jace. Opponent with Settle the Wreckage, alright. Get a Plains. Field of Ruin, a Colonnade first. Get a Plains, and then fetch for another Plains, or I guess in this case Canopy Vista. Run out the Rallier, no value, but still a 3-2 to pressure Jace. That Rest in Peace is certainly annoying, and we've already gone through 2 answers. Jace is gonna brainstorm once again. Narset Transcendent goes pretty well with Jace's brainstorm. Opponent pluses, and they shuffled, so they don't know the top card. It's Mana Leak, so they get a Mana Leak in their hand. And they play out a tapped Hallowed Fountain, so we might be able to take out Jace here. And there's a Flickerwisp as well. So let's attack. Attack Jace. Finally got rid of Jace. And now we can Flickerwisp, targeting Wall of Omens. We know they have a Mana Leak still in hand. And say go. I think I want to keep the forest in hand since they did show Esper Charm, so they might make us discard 2 cards at some point. So now we have some pressure, opponent stop decking, although they do have a Celestial Colonnade still as a blocker. Supreme Verdict revealed with Narset, that's convenient. Yep. Alright. Another Flickerwisp, I guess we play Flickerwisp. And we can target Narset to reset her. I think that's the most useful thing we can do with Flickerwisp. Say go. Disallow revealed. And the problem now is this Celestial Colonnade, which we can't attack into. Another Sun Titan. Opponent has a Disallow to cover that. They can still block with Colonnade and Disallow, so there's no point in playing the Sun Titan. So we'll just say go. Cryptic Command revealed. Alright, I'm almost ready to pack things up here. Opponent has 2 hard counters in hand, and the Narset that's about to ultimate as we draw a second Celestial Purge without a target. Can probably take those out. So we need a Field of Ruin here for the opponent's Celestial Colonnade to make some headway. Opponent's fetching. Sakura-Tribe Elder. Narset up to 10. Alright, we can kill that with the Celestial Purge. Elvish Visionary. Reveals a Lone Missionary. Still no attacks. Narset reveals a second Cryptic Command. Supreme Verdict. Alright, let's move to game 3. So let's take out the Celestial Purges, and I guess we would rather have maybe even Path to Exile for Colonnades and other creature lands. I think that's about it. Would like to be on the play, and this hand seems okay, bit slow, but Sun Titan's powerful, Reclamation Sage to deal with potential Rest in Pieces, and Emeria is the way we win. Alright, found our green. Turn to Ascanta, it's gonna meet Reclamation Sage. And we'll get in for 2. Alright, let's attack for 4. Play a land to play around Logic Knot a bit. Run out Tribe Elder. Say go. And we could sacrifice a Tribe Elder end of turn to have access to Sun Titan next turn. Esper Charm to draw 2. Alright. Untap land for the opponents. And they're just gonna slam a Supreme Verdict so we can sacrifice with Selfless Spirit to save the Reclamation Sage. And sacrifice a Tribe Elder since we're gonna jam this Sun Titan. So untap, fetch another Temple Garden, or in this case maybe we just get Canopy Vista, play Sun Titan, getting back Selfless Spirit. And our opponent scoops it up. Awesome, managed to beat Esper Control. I wanna thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed. And as always, have a nice day. I also want to thank all my patrons for supporting the channel, and you can do so yourself as well over at patreon.com/LegenVD, where you get cool rewards for supporting the channel, as well as getting us closer to our goals, where with every goal reached, we will release an additional weekly series. So if you want to see more content, Patreon is the place to go.